Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. Today I want to cover 3 topics, 2 about me and 1 about the community. So I want to tell you exactly what I've spent the past 2 years of my life doing, how I have made a living online, building a business with $0 to start, and why that's actually not true. What I'm doing now, which, we've talked about a little bit previous episodes, but physically right now, and then what Rsvl has going on, some cool updates I've seen that have happened to the local community. This is mainly about entrepreneurship and mindset. You might learn a few nuggets here and there if I do my job right. So go ahead and buckle up and let's get started. So for the past 2.5 years, I have been running a social media marketing agency, an SMMA. If you go online and Google how to start an SMMA right now, you will be targeted by ads. You will fall into what's called sales funnels from hundreds of gurus trying to sell you their online courses, trying to teach you how to make obscene amounts of money online and showing you all sorts of social proof saying it is possible. So 2.5 years ago, I fell into these sales funnels, this financial trap, I guess. I don't know if I'd call it a trap, but I fell into these funnels and I was caught in hook, line, and sinker. So I invested about $3,000 of, honestly, my wife's money at that time, because we had been married for about a year and most of the money in our savings was hers. I convinced her. She wasn't hard to convince because she supports me quite a lot. Hey, this is what I need to do. I want to start a business. And I was at the time, you have to understand the framing. I was already at a job where I was making more than I had ever made. $25 an hour over at Arkansas Nuclear One, working in a really easy office job, like the easiest job in the world. But it was because of the ease of that job, I was driving myself insane. There was no room for upwards growth. I could tell everyone around me had been there forever. And frankly, they seemed like nice people, but I don't know. This just wasn't for me. Like, I need a growth environment that I can put and get out what I put in, right? So perhaps a little rashly, I quit my job. After a month of, being a part of this online course, I invested $3,000. And before I even made my first dollar online, quit the job and went all in. In fact, once I booked my first sales call with an online brand, I'll tell you more about what an SMMA does, I quit. And I think I gave like a 3-day notice, And it wasn't because I'm just like, I'm out. I offered to stay longer, but they didn't need me any longer, right? It was just due to the project work, and I was kind of over at that point. So I was like, all right, guys, I'm gonna peace out of here. And I might have burned some bridges in the process. Hopefully not. I guess it doesn't really matter. But so in SMMA, what did I do? And what do I do now? How has that evolved over time? Well, it started off by running Facebook and Google ads to online businesses. Businesses that sell their products online. We call them e-commerce businesses. Now, some of these companies also sell in retail, but at the end of the day, a company is pretty much always going to make more by selling a product directly to you, the consumer, because they don't have to pay that middleman, that Amazon, Walmart, whatever, retailer that might be. So that's what I did. I started emailing hundreds of outdoor recreation e-commerce companies, because I was interested in outdoor companies, and I signed my first rock climbing brand after about just a month or 2. Like, it didn't really take that long in hindsight. Like, felt like a long time, but put in the work, got a client, and then I quickly started signing more. And then I realized, oh crap, like, I started failing. We started losing clients left and right, which was a part of the learning process. I hired a contractor from day one to fulfill the Facebook and Google ad service, because I knew I didn't know how to do that. I didn't need to learn how to do that. And I wanted to focus on, signing more clients and making sure the team structure was built so we could scale this thing. The goal was to get to $10,000 a month as quickly as possible. To get to $10,000 per month, it took me about 7 to 8 months of grinds. And the profit margin on that was about 60 to 70%. So my take home, was about that. But that being said, I was investing a lot of it back into the company. So I don't know if it was actually, I'd have to go back and look at my books. I don't think I was actually making that much. At this point, dwindling through savings was coasting us through. My wife is in school, we're paying for school. It's not a great situation. For the past 2.5 years, I can't overstate the amount of struggle we've been through. And a lot of it could have been avoided had I just stayed in my job, right? So there is this part of me that's like, man, did you make the right decision? But I think I did at the end of the day, because I'm in a completely different mental space now than I was then. I think I'm a better person. And let me just continue telling you a little bit of what I did. About a year into the business, after I hit 10K, I had the opportunity to join the team, the company that actually sold these online courses to teach you how to build an SMMA. And I believed in what they were doing. I believed in it wholeheartedly because I had seen actual cash in hand based on the teachings they provided me, based on the coaching I received. So I was all gung-ho. It's like, oh yeah, let's do it. And they offered me a role because I had done a good job at community interaction. I was sharing my progress and my lessons learned on the online forums they had built, and other people in the community were noticing that. So the owner of the company was like, Tal, I want to interview you for this coaching role. Sweet, let's do it. Anyways, landed the role, and I was good at that job. Like, I was good at it. Not only was I just good at talking to people, I got insanely good at talking to people. It's a skill. Being on Zoom meetings, it didn't start off, super intense, but over time, over the course of the year I was in that role, by the end of it, I had pretty much fully transitioned to doing that. And the agency, my social media agency, was kind of maybe 20% of what I was doing at the end of it, because I had built up a team, I'd built up revenue. But eventually it started to all waver, right? Like, it was too much. Too much was going on in May of 2021 or 2022. I think it was, last year, 2022, so a year ago from now. And I tried to quit the role, the coaching role, because I was like, the agency was suffering, I was losing some clients, the team, it needed my focus, right, to really hit that next level of growth. But my CEO at the time, for this coaching role, he convinced me to stay. He wined and dined me. And I'm not angry with him for it, and he offered me a better future, right? So I decided to commit to that. So for the next, 4 or 5 months, was all in. But it got intense, working 8, 9, 10 hours a day, which isn't an insane amount to work. Some of you are like, oh, you kids these days, I can't. But look, that 8 hours a day, you have to understand it was very intense work. It was on Zoom meetings, back to back to back to back, 30-minute slots, talking to people about things that I had stopped doing myself. I was coaching them on how to run this business they were trying to build based on experience from months ago. I wasn't in the trenches anymore. So I started to get burnt out, and it really wore on me psychologically. I wasn't working out. I wasn't making healthy decisions when it came to food and what I put into my body. So my brain was unable to compute. So eventually I quit. I put in, a 3 months notice, and a month later I was gone. Just based on how they wanted to handle my departure. Which sucks, because that role was paying me a lot of money. Like that. If I had mentally stuck it out, we could have, maybe I should have, we could have paid off a lot of things, but I was just dead. We had some money saved up, so I quit. And burnout, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. It's rough. It's rough to come back from that. It took months to come back from that. So really at the beginning of, I'd say even March of this year, February, January of this year is when I started to really come back from that, and try new things, and then experience more failures. But anyways, long story short, that's what I did. Experienced a lot of successes and failures with the brands I worked with and the clients I worked with in that coaching company as well. Great experience overall. Glad I experienced it. But man, it hurt. But that's where growth happens. It happens in the pain, I think. That's what I really learned. I met very rich people, insanely wealthy, not only in finances, but in mindset and network. And some of those people I'm still very good friends with to this day. So very thankful for that. So thank you guys. Now today, I've still got the agency going, working with a few clients. Really, I'm focusing on less quantity and more quality. The team is pretty much, it's much smaller, just a couple of us now. But we're looking at more long-term, better approaches long-term. I'm not focused on signing more clients with the marketing agency at the moment, but just delivering excellent results to the people we are working with, which is actually what I'm doing right now. I'm driving to Conway to this new climbing gym that's opened up to record some content. and network with some of the owners here for a company called 8B Plus, which is just a fantastic rock climbing brand that I'm privileged to work with, and exciting things to come for this year. And eventually we'll add more clients to the agency's roster, but between that and growing Level Up Rsvl, I don't want to spread myself too thin, because I've done that before, made those mistakes, learned hard lessons. Don't want to end up in that same boat again and ruin it when I could just focus on delivering excellent results. So, that's a bit of a breakdown of just the past couple of years. If I had to redo it all, I would do it again. I'd probably change a few things, but I would definitely do it again. It's entrepreneurship is one of those things where you think you know what's going to happen. You paint this beautiful picture of the future, and then reality just slaps you in the face. It's like, and sometimes it's gross. Sometimes it's better than you thought, but it's going to change things. It's not going to be how you pictured it. But the only way you can win is by not quitting, by staying in the game, which is absolutely what I'm pleased with myself that I'm still here, right? It would have been so easy to quit. I don't think I can quit though. I don't even think if I wanted to, I could. I've ruined myself by being self-employed. The only way I could ever quit is if I joined a team that was of the same mindset, right? Not even quit. The only way I could ever work for someone else is if it was a very growth-minded atmosphere where with really exciting projects. But that's not very common. A lot of that doesn't exist around here. And this is what I'm trying to build with Level Up Rsvl, and meet the people that are going to help me build it. I don't know what final form that is going to take, but I know right now this podcast, sharing my learnings, interviewing other people, which I want to start doing ASAP, other entrepreneurs, other people in the local area, is going to be super beneficial to all of that. And then eventually getting this co-working space, this creator space built where people can come, create, build. I can share my lessons, but also, it's an interesting thing, sharing your lessons. I'm 25 years old. How many lessons could I possibly learn? I've got to remain humble about all of this, which I hope to always do that. I'm sure there's times where I've been less humble than I needed to be. But that's something I always want to try to keep, in the forefront. You can share your lessons while still remaining humble and ready to learn from other people, even if they don't appear to be as advanced, quote unquote advanced as you. Yeah, it's an exciting time to be an entrepreneur and building things. So many new advancements, which let's go ahead and transition over to some advancements Rsvl has been making. Not a ton. There are a few. Not as many as you'd like to see, but it takes time, I think, right? It takes time to build. They got a new splash pad over at the city park. That was pretty cool. They're building it seems like the town's investing more into its infrastructure, which is nice. I don't know who's in charge of that. One day I hope to meet him. Maybe it's the mayor, maybe it's the council. I don't know. As someone that, again, is just kind of missing a lot of pieces when it comes to the local structure of things. I don't know who's making these moves, but whoever they are, I think they've got their heads in the right space. Grand opening of Pine Knob Mountain Bike Park coming up soon, and that'll be cool. I want to make some videos around that. In fact, if you've been following me up until this point in Level Up Rsvl, what we're doing, there's actually a couple more people involved that you haven't seen on camera yet that maybe you will soon, or at least hear on a podcast or something. We want to make a couple of videos with community intent. We've got a few ideas about that. I guess we'll go ahead and say it here. I don't really know who's listening, but we can go ahead and throw it out there and see what happens of it. There's, for example, one idea I think would be really fun to implement that would just be about promoting Arkansas and Rsvl in the local area. This is kind of another I'm full of outlandish ideas, like rigging a hot air balloon with a rock climbing wall, which we're still working on. But also skydiving on top of Mount Nebo, and then biking from Nebo, hitting up some of the trails, and then biking from Nebo to Dardanelle Rock to do a multi-pitch. And then, in the day up there, what makes for us, I think, a sweet adventure video that would just be more about promoting outdoor tourism and recreation in the area. and showing just how much you can do around here. But yeah, there's a few other ones. I really want to, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but probably about 10, 12, 15 years ago, there was some like Pope County scavenger hunt going on, I think out of Bonadilla. I was very young when it happened, and there was like a giant cash prize. I don't even know who put that on or what happened of it, but I remember it was so exciting to have that going on, and I wanted to be a part of it so bad. And my parents didn't let me, but it's okay. Probably too young. Something like that. Some sort of community-driven challenge. And it'd be cool to get the escape room involved, perhaps, or some business with to promote some. Like, it's about promoting business at the end of the day and having it actually impact somebody. That's the goal. So some sort of community scavenger hunt or community like escape room at like the city level, where it's not you're in a particular building. I don't know. There's a few interesting ideas to play on from there. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, if you have any ideas on that, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. And if you're listening and you're a business owner in the area, or you're just in the area and you're trying to build something, definitely reach out or go to levelup.rsvl.com. Sign up for our newsletter where we'll notify you on interesting projects and developments as we progress. All right, thank you for listening to this episode of the Level Up Podcast. This has been Talis Wisegood, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.